It was the end of a perfect family day on the water, and our newly acquired small motorboat is certain to provide us memories for a long time to come. We were new to boating, but I thought it would be a great way to provide for some fun family time together, and it certainly did. Cruising along the beautiful shoreline, we enjoyed the warm sun and the relaxing sound of the water lapping against the hull. We viewed wildlife and explored both inhabited and secluded areas. At midday, we took time out in a quiet bay to enjoy a picnic lunch and to try some fishing. All this adventure against the backdrop of some beautiful Canadian scenery, which I believe is best viewed from the water. I must admit that I had some concern taking the family out for this day on the water. After all, we were all so new to boating. However, the class I took to get my required pleasure craft operator card provided me with the basics to operate our boat safely. I was looking to get some knowledge with a certified instructor to learn safe boating practices. Next, I spent the day on a small lake with a friend who is an experienced boater to get familiar with the controls and receive instruction on basic boat handling. But this trip is going to be different. It was a full day outing with the family in unfamiliar waters. I had learned that the first step of a boat trip is to be prepared. I studied a marine chart and spoke to someone familiar with boating in the area to make sure the water was not beyond my beginner skills. My course had taught me that there are some places too dangerous to boat, no matter what your skill level is. I located the nearest boat launch and a safe route to go once we were on the water, and looked for a good place to stop for lunch. In the morning, I checked the marine weather forecast for the area. A sunny day, no expected storms, and light winds from the northwest. Those winds would bring small waves in open water, but nothing I couldn't handle. I would have to keep an eye on the weather for any changes, but it looked like a perfect day for boating. We then packed some items to make our day on the water more comfortable, and some in case of emergency items for safety. We were not planning for anything bad to happen, but my wife still contacted our friend and then sent him a float plan outlining where we were going, when we expected to return, and who to call if we didn't check in with him at our planned return time. At the launch site, I checked the condition of our boat and motor. I checked the hull and propeller for any cracks or damage, and I made sure the drain plug was closed. I also checked that we had enough fuel to cover the distance of our trip, 1/3 of a tank for the trip out, 1/3 back, and 1/3 in reserve. We then loaded our personal and legally required safety gear, including the navigation chart, some spare parts, and tools for emergency repairs. We packed and secured our gear in the boat, making sure not to overload it with a lot of extra items. Finally, before launching, we put on our PFDs. They were a bit more expensive than the basic kind, but were well worth it. The kind of jackets that are comfortable to be worn all day, which was our intention. To keep the boat level, I would sit in the back, my wife Molly in the front, and our son and daughter in the center. The class I took and the day of boat handling lessons gave me some confidence in the calm water leaving the launch ramp, and I remembered that this close to the shore, I had to maintain a speed that didn't create a wave that could damage the shoreline. But moving into open water, there was more wind, the waves were getting a little larger, and I must admit, my heart started beating faster. Our boat seemed pretty small in this big water, but I was certain the conditions didn't exceed my capabilities. So, we continued on and began to explore. It wasn't too long into our trip that we encountered some channel markers. I had learned about them in the class I took. They are officially referred to as lateral buoys and day beacons, but I had never actually seen one up close like this. I knew that these red and green markers identified channels of deep, safe water for boating. These marked channels are the highways of the water, and I had to pay attention and in certain areas stay in the channel to avoid hitting bottom and damaging my boat. On the water, there are rules of the road for all vessels. I learned all the right-of-way rules in the course I took. But I kept a watch for boats who might not know the rules of the road, or see our tiny boat in all of this water. It was important to stay alert because larger passing motorboats can create waves called boat wake that, if crossed incorrectly, could toss us out of our boat. The first wake was pretty scary, and I'm glad we had our PFDs on. But I remembered what my friend had taught me, and I turned into the wake and crossed it at a 45-degree angle to minimize the risk of an upset. After the first wake, the rest were easier. We simply kept a watch and were ready to deal with them. Boat wakes are all part of boating in a shared waterway. With a few hours of exploration behind us, it was time for a break. We located a protected area of calm water, dropped an anchor, and enjoyed the lunch we had brought along. After lunch, we all tried a little fishing. While we were there, the local Marine Patrol cruised by and greeted us with a friendly wave. Police are on the water to assist boaters and respond to emergency calls. They often conduct spot checks for required safety gear, including the required pleasure craft operator's card. They are also on the lookout for alcohol infractions on the water. It is illegal to be impaired while operating a motorboat, or even carry open alcohol aboard. Finished with lunch, we pulled up the anchor and headed back towards the launch ramp. I noticed that during our lunch stop, the wind had picked up, making for some choppy waves in the open water. I looked at the chart and found an alternate route along the protected side of some islands. It was a longer way back, but a much smoother ride. Coming to the end of our trip, I realized just what a wonderful outdoor activity that recreational boating is, and how it makes for great family fun, if you know what you're doing. And I believe that the basic boating course I took was the best way to get that knowledge. While packing up, my wife closed our float plan by making a call to our friend to say that we were safely back at the launch ramp. This first family outing put just a little bit of stress on me, applying my new skills in real boating conditions. But we had the knowledge and gear to deal with it. The basic boating course had taught me my limits and how to stay within them, and not put myself or my family at risk. But I plan on expanding my boating knowledge by taking some more advanced courses in the future. It was a perfect day on the water and the start of many more to come.